A new flammable cladding risk. Let's have a look. Good morning everyone, Florian Heise here, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I've got my morning stein of coffee, and I hope you do too. And I thought we would have a look at this article that came out from news.com.au. This is to do with a new form, a new cladding that has now been declared a risk. Well, not really a new cladding. It's a product that's been around for quite some time. It's a product that we've specified on jobs. It's a product that is sitting out the front of my entry to my house. I'm using it, or a similar type of system, for decking. And now it's been ruled as an undue fire risk. An undue fire risk. Now, there are several issues in the construction industry in Australia at the moment. You can see here I've pinned just a range of different buildings, and we'll zoom into what I call the triangle of fail in Sydney, between Mascot Towers, the Zetland Apartments, and the Sugar Cube. Just this area in here where we're starting to see more and more buildings with issues. But this is not just an issue in central Sydney, it is across the entire country. Now, we also have, and I'll bring up the Heise's website, we have flammable cladding. And if you go to my website on the construction map, I've shown some of the data. I've mapped some of the buildings that have had flammable cladding. It's been leaked because we've been trying to get this information from the government and they refuse to issue it. Now, my argument is, because there have been people who have occupied these buildings and weren't even aware there was an issue, my argument is that people should be made aware of these potential issues because most of the time the risk can be managed. And I would say that the biggest risk factor is an accident by an occupant of the building. Either someone falling asleep with a cigarette, leaving a cigarette out in an ice cream container that caught on fire and went up a facade like that happened before in Melbourne. I would say that is the highest element of risk. And most of these buildings, we've worked on projects where they've had flammable cladding, and we've made rivet models where they could document how much it was, because you have to understand a lot of the times it can be managed. If you're in a building that has this, it's not the end of the world. Sure, sometimes it is pretty bad and needs to be pulled off and replaced. And these different buildings will show just the status of their risk assessment. If a fire safety order was issued, that's the one where you want to be concerned about. No issue, no fire FSA issued, no FSA issued. So some were, some weren't. And this isn't getting updated live, unfortunately, but it's just showing you the data that we managed. It was leaked to the newspaper and we mapped it here. Now, that is my argument. People are going, oh, but Florian, arsonists will come and burn down all these buildings. Well, arsonists can go down and burn down any buildings. That's to mitigate that is not restricting information. It's security measures. It's making people aware. Maybe if you understood that there was a portion of your building where you knew as an occupant, oh yeah, that cladding there, that's an issue, and you saw someone smoking there, or you saw someone carrying around, looking a bit sketchy, you would be a bit more concerned. I don't know, maybe that's just a little bit too rational. So let's have a look at this article. This was written by Frank Chung from news.com.au. So a wooden cladding used on hundreds of apartment buildings and popular with businesses including McDonald's has been ruled an undue fire risk. A popular wooden panel used on hundreds of residential and commercial buildings across Australia and overseas may have to be urgently removed after a tribunal ruled it poses a serious fire risk. The New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal has found that biowood cladding installed externally on a Sydney apartment building is combustible and must be removed as it is a major defect. Now, this is a big issue, guys, because, as an architect, when we specify these products, there's certain requirements that we have to comply with in the National Construction Code. A lot of the times we will also depend on the advice from certifiers and manufacturers and the testing the manufacturers does. So if they hand us a little certificate going, this is non-combustible based on this test, stamped from a laboratory, we have to trust that. But the problem is, and we're seeing this with the aluminium cladding and the fire issues that some of that has, the testing isn't designed for an in situ installation. often they'll just test components of it and then use that and infer the final outcome from that. And it's not ideal. It's not ideal. I'm not sure what's happened here, but that's the thing. As an architect who's specifying these type of materials, I don't have a laboratory, guys. I can't test it. I have to depend on the professional information that we get. The certifiers have to depend on the professional information we get. The developers and the people need to depend on the information they receive. So Biowood's website describes its product, which is made from 70% reconstituted timber and 30% PVC, as a sustainable timber alternative that is fire retardant and water resistant. See, this is the thing. I mean, it's a dense, heavy product, but you don't need to maintain it as much. And that everyone plays up the reconstituted, reusing timber, recycled. Yeah. Its website highlights a number of high-profile commercial building locations using the paneling, noting that Biowood contributed to designing a green architectural solution for McDonald's restaurants around the globe, including Penrith, Canberra, Port Macquarie, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Thailand. Those refurbishments date back to 2011. A McDonald's spokesman said, Biowood has not been a supplier of McDonald's Australia for more than 5 years, but would not confirm if the paneling had been removed. So Biowood panels. I'm hoping... See, this is the thing. This is the news.com are taking photographs of it. And this is an appealing product because it's low maintenance. They've got a system here where you can hide the fixing methods. So at least that's what it looks like. And you also have, you've got to understand too, you've got the aluminium products as well, where you can't really tell if it's a fake timber or real timber until you get up to it and tap on it. As an architect, it just sits the wrong way with regards to the aluminium. That's the fake timber. It's so unrealistic. Yeah. Anyway, the cost of replacing it could run into millions of dollars. It definitely could. The owners corporation of a multi-story complex on Lardeli Drive in Ryde took builder Taylor Construction Group and developer Fraser to the NCAT, seeking to have the cladding declared a major defect and to be replaced under the 6-year warranty period. The tribunal agreed with the applicants, ruling that Biowood presents an undue risk of fire spread from compartment to compartment by the exterior of the building and is therefore not fit for purpose. Well, there you go, guys. There you go. The tribunal is satisfied that the use of Biowood as attachments to the external walls is a breach of the statutory warranties. Now, I would be interested. I need to follow up these names and just do a search to see if we see any court action going between these parties and maybe the designers or the specifiers. The decision is the first of its kind anywhere in the world and is likely to send shockwaves through the building and construction sector, already reeling from the combustible aluminium cladding scandal in the wake of the fires at Grenfell Tower in London and Cross Tower in Melbourne. And now we've got the polystyrene cladding issue everywhere as well. It's just not going too well, is it, in the construction game? J.S. Muller & Co. senior lawyers of, we'll call him FS, who worked on the case, said the cost of removing the panels could run into the millions of dollars. There's been a lot of talk in the industry about aluminium composite panels, but there was nothing in the world about Biowood panels, he said. We took this up because our fire engineer had given us an opinion that the Biowood panels were combustible and therefore didn't comply with the Building Code of Australia and Australian standards. The lawyers wrote to the builder and developer, bringing it to their notice, but they weren't coming to the party, so we had to go back to this proceedings to determine once and for all whether the panels were in breach. The ultimate ruling from the tribunal was that Biowood panels could pose an undue risk of fire spread from one compartment to another, basically putting lives at risk, that the panels were a major defect in breach of the statutory warranties under the Home Building Act, and it has to be removed and replaced with something that complies with the Building Code of Australia and Australian standards, he said. So, it's termite resistant, it's fire retardant, but it's not fire. There's different ratings with regards to the fire retardation and how fireproof products are. I know that I wanted to have a certain aesthetic inside a fire escape, and I couldn't achieve it with a particular product. I had to find another one. And it even comes down to one of the issues is also curtains too. They're a big cause of fire spreading, going up over windows and those type of things. So we do have legislation that is actually pretty decent with regards to life safety here in Australia. I know it can be quite onerous sometimes, but you have to understand every time, well, a lot of this fire safety stuff has been written after people have died. After people have died. I mean, this is the advantage of this stuff. It's termite resistant, fire retardant, and water resistant. And the problem is that because it's going from one sector, one compartment to another, you're having issues with regards to the fire separation in the building. Mr. Shafiq said owners, corporations and strata managers of buildings with biowood installed require an urgent assessment of the risks involved and their rights in light of the decision. The panel must be removed to prevent lives being lost in another catastrophe. At the end of the day, it's trying to make the place safer, he said, particularly where with these high-rise buildings, you might have people who are not very mobile. If it catches fire and goes inside and they can't escape, they're gone. He said biowood was popular because it aesthetically it looks very pleasing, or it's aesthetically very pleasing. You never think of something like that will be combustible. As we speak, I'm sure there are a lot of builders and developers installing it, not knowing this has been held to be combustible, he said. I'm sure Parliament will look at it under the Product Safety Act to determine if it should be added as a banned product. A McDonald's spokeswoman confirmed, they haven't been a supplier for years. So there you go, guys. Biowood has been contacted for comment. So, what's the situation here? Because really, in some regards, you would be, on a project like this, you would have a building certifier as well that would be part of the team. The thing is, you all would come together, sit around the table, go through the documents, go through every material that you've specified, and things like this should be highlighted. Should be highlighted and should be caught. But if it's a little bit ambiguous, if it's fire retardant, what testing has it been done? So there you go. But I mean, okay, it's different in a situation like this. Okay, here, I mean, what issue is it going to cause? This isn't an egress path. No one's going to run out. If it's going to catch fire on here, people will still be able to evacuate the building. The main issue is that you don't want it to spread fire between compartments. I mean, they're picking on McDonald's because it's a brand everyone recognizes, and, they can highlight it and get photographs for free. The big issue is in apartment buildings, where if you have, fire going from one apartment to the next, and you got the cladding out here, and the cladding kind of negates this fire barrier here, because the fire just goes from one to the other. That's the main issue. That's also with regards to fire separation between different buildings, how we're having, well, it's being reported more and more that there are gaps in the fire separation. And we saw that in a building, and I will bring that up. We saw that in the Verve apartments here. And I will write down the time and link to the video I did that, where because of, well, just luck, I'm just checking the time here, 13 minutes. Because of just luck in the project having a water leak, and they had to remove some plasters to repair it, and they found there was holes in the fire separation. That is a big issue. That is one of the biggest concerns I have with all of construction at the moment, that I'm hearing more and more about these fire separation issues. This flammable cladding is just another way for the fire separation to be compromised. And I'm hearing it in Sydney or Newcastle. I'm hearing it in Western Australia. I'm hearing it more and more. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. Have you specified this product, or have you installed it on a job? Have you found any issues with it? I know I prefer using real timber, particularly with hammering nails through and screwing. Let me know what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy my content and want to help us produce more, we have a Patreon where you can make a donation. We have Amazon and eBay referral links. We sell our merch on Heise Says, and we have PayPal if you want to make a donation. Thank you to everyone who helps support the channel. We really appreciate it. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you later.